interesting little thing because I hit record because I want to talk about this. This is a neat little bug. I think this is like one of these things that it's a fortuitous uh, way that things happen. I think what we've got in this application is I'm pretty sure what happens is we've got three different statuses and different places where you set statuses, where you activate or deactivate things, different statuses get set. So I think the bug with this one is that it set a status, but it didn't set the same, it didn't ripple effect that status all the way down, which for those of you that have just joined us, this is a good little bit of bonus stuff, is that make sure you're very clear when you are designing out your requirements and everything else that you have like one source of truth for things like what is the status of this record, or is this active, or is it deleted, or things like that. Because if you don't, it gets really confusing when we get further on. Or have another project that has had similar things where it evolved and we redesigned a couple of core pieces, and then suddenly some of those statuses moved. And so the things that were in like one place are now actually in a different place or in two different places. And then you have to go find all the logic that touches that and make sure that it got updated. Which if you do things right and it's truly object oriented and all that kind of stuff, then probably you only do it once, but inevitably that's not always the case. So that was, yeah. And then the whole, okay, it's time to just not bother with that one. Let's just like take that feature out. That is, it is probably the fastest solution, but I said, I'm still gonna have to dig through all this stuff because like even taking that out means we need to go everywhere else that we did it and need to figure out how did we do it before and then take that, feature away from them, which also means probably it's going to be its own little debugging journey of finding some inconsistencies, I bet, in the code where, one developer did it this way and then later somebody else came and did it another way. So I said it's probably a good cleanup effort. Anyways, it will probably protect us from surprise bugs that would show up further down further downstream. A month from now, we're like, well, this worked great until you did this one thing. And you find out that it's, that one screen, that one button actually doesn't do it the same way. And fun times all around. So, that being said, I'm going to shorten myself a little bit here because of just where I am today. Because I was up in the apartment and doing that, and it was too freaking hot. I didn't want to like close the windows. I was like, it's too hot to do this, but I didn't want to close the windows. So I'm like, I'm going to get somewhere that's got air. And I've got my little fanny fan going here. And I want to go back to because I'm going to try, I think, I'm going to try something different today. With how many freaking Zoom windows do I have open there? Okay. Here we go.
That reminded me, do not disturb.
Oh, that is a good catch because I actually just got. Why are you? Let me see if I can move this. Well, that is not where I want to move it. That's my problem. Okay, I got to move this guy over here. I'm on two different screens, and I was thinking I could just like do the whatever the spaces that Mac has.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking I could do that, but because I got two screens, it doesn't want to like move the spaces properly. So what I'm going to do, I know, trust me, this is all for effect. Dramatic pause. Everybody's like, what are you doing? What's different? I'm going to throw it in Gemini today. And it looks like it's given me cool. It's given me like a pretty good. I wasn't sure how well it was going to give me a breakdown, and it looks pretty good. So I'm going to like take this and copy that. Wow, this is actually going to be pretty fun. I think if I can find all the places that I need to move this. Not you and you. Let me just get rid of that. I don't need a two-person conversation with you. I need a one-person conversation with you and put it right there. Okay. And the topic today is Transform Your Projects, the ultimate guide to effective user stories. And so I get my Zoom window back so I can sort of look at you. Because it just keeps my stomach churning the whole time. Just kidding. And so I think we are ready to go with a little tres, dos, uno. Hello and welcome back. I just faked out my co-host because he thought I was going to go Spanish, but I went back to the English translation this time. Who am I? I am Rob Broadhead. I'm one of the founders of Developreneur, also one of the people that created this podcast, which is called the Developreneur Podcast, Building Better Developers. Actually, just past the 900 mark. If you guys want to flip back a episode or two, you'll get to see our little like yay celebration thing. So we've been doing this for a while. And as part of that, this season, we've taken a couple of seasons back. We're going back through those episodes and we're just kicking it out to AI and see what happens. What does it tell us essentially we should have done? And we're even changing the game today. We're going to try Gemini instead of ChatGPT that we've been using up to this point. Hold your breath because it could be really excited. No, maybe not very exciting what it gives us. I'm also the founder of RB Consulting, where we are effectively, the easiest way to look at it, we are a fractional CIO consultancy. We're a business consultant. We come in, we do a technology assessment. We help you figure out basically by talking to you, how your business works. Let's lay that out first. Let's get to the guts and the processes of how do you provide the best services and products to your customers. And then from there, we look at ways to improve it. It may be removing steps, it may be adding steps, it may be simplifying, it may be integrating, it may be automating, it may be innovating. There's a lot of different approaches we can take. We use technology and all the stuff that's out there at our disposal to find the best way for your program, for your company, for your product to move forward. We build you a technology roadmap that allows you to get started today, but then also make sure that you're positioned for the future, whether it's 6 months or 6 years from now. We can hand you that roadmap and say, go for it, have fun, or anything else. We can take you very deep. We can implement it with you. We can help you find a team that can implement it. You name it. We're going to help you find the best way forward and give you the keys to your car and let you drive. Good thing, bad thing. Good thing, bad thing today is like a perfect thing as I was coming into this is that it is cooled down a little bit. So the nights are finally cool enough that we are in what my wife likes to call the free portion of the year a little bit in the spring and the fall where we're at, because we get 4 seasons where you don't run heat and you don't run air. You can pretty much just, let it run you can just leave the windows open then all the time and be all natural. And that's pretty good, except for it got a little hot because of where we're at. It was getting a little hot today. So the bad thing is I was like, all right, I gotta pick up and move and can't be in my like normal shooting the episode spot, but it's not a bad thing. So it's pretty good and just a minor bad. So I think that's about as good as you could ask for on a given day, except you guys get to ask for even better, which is for Michael to introduce himself. So go for it, my friend.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael Meloche. I'm one of the co-founders of Developreneur, Building Better Developers. 900 episodes. Go check it out. We've been around for a while. I'm also the owner of Envision QA. We help businesses run better by making sure their software works the way it should. Whether you're managing customers, selling online, or running a clinic, we make sure your systems work more reliable, more efficient, and easier to use. That means fewer headaches for you, happier customers, and more time to focus on growth. We start by getting to know your business, reviewing your product, understanding your goals, and assessing what works and what's not working. From there, we'd recommend the right solution, whether it's building you a custom tool, fixing what's broken, automating your tests, or helping you prepare for a smoother launch. Our goal simply is to take care of the tech behind the scenes so you can focus on running and growing your business with confidence. You can learn more about us at envisionqa.com. Good thing, bad thing. Good thing, I'm loving this weather. This is awesome weather. Bad thing, my allergies have already started to kick in. I woke up this morning with like a sinus headache, and I've been on Benadryl, antihistamines. So unfortunately, it's one of those days where it's so nice to be outside, but you're in that kind of haze and you just can't really enjoy it.
Well, we are not going to be in a haze moving forward with this, I hope. So we jumped right in. I'm going to jump right into this one. So the episode was Transformative Projects, the Ultimate Guide to Effective User Stories. Episode title, Transformative Projects, the Ultimate Guide to Effective User Stories. Wow, that was very helpful. Thank you so much, AI. Host, your name, co-host name. Opening, 1 to 2 minutes. Intro music, upbeat, tech-focused. We had totally nailed that, I'm going to say. Hook, start with a relatable problem. Ever been in a sprint planning meeting where the user stories just don't make sense? You're left guessing what the customer actually wants. Today, we're talking about how to fix that. Introduce the topic, briefly explain what user stories are and why they are so crucial for developers, emphasize their role as a communication tool, not just as a technical spec. And this is very much what we did the first time around. Actually, it's going to be interesting. I wonder how much this is going to be very close to what we did the first time around. So part one, the why, the philosophy of user stories, 5 to 7 minutes. Discussion item. What is the core purpose of a user story? It's not a spec, it's a promise for a conversation. It's about shared understanding. Customer centric. The focus should always be on the user's perspective. Small, digestible chunks. Why breaking down work is essential for agility and accurate estimation. Another discussion item for this. Why do developers often struggle with poorly written user stories? Vague requirements, which lead to rework, frustration, and features nobody asked for. Lack of context, hard to build a robust solution without understanding the why. And blame game. When things go wrong, it's difficult to pinpoint where the breakdown happened. Now, this is quite a bit here. I want to talk a little bit about basically the customer centric piece of it, because I think this is very, very key, is that when you keep it customer centric, when you keep it user story, when it's user specific, then what you end up doing is you are focusing on an outcome, for lack of a better term. You are focusing on like what is the experience of this feature that we're building. And this, for example, let's say it's always like the ATM. So you're focused on the user story of the user wants to get some money out of the ATM and they need to get some from their checking. And then what that does is allows you to focus on requirements that are key for the story. So it's, in that case, it's like the user needs to be able to enter a positive number. They need to be able to type it into a keyboard or maybe speak it through a microphone. There's requirements like that. A very important thing that a user story does not get into, if it's done right, and it helps you because it's a user specific thing, is that you don't get into implementation. It is very easy when you start really digging into requirements to get sucked into the implementation side of stuff, where you're now talking about like, well, we got to have this data table and we have to have this data type and we have to have, this special CSS class or whatever it is. There's a lot of things that can go into the technical vision of how you're going to deliver it. And user stories are not really about the delivering it as much as they're about how is it received? It's that user story. How did they experience? The delivery part of it, which is where it talked here about, it sets up a communication, because what it is it says, hey, this is what the user needs to experience. Now, at some later point, once we've got all of our user stories together, we can talk about how we deliver it, which is where we can go into some of the deeper requirements and validations and things like that. It's almost a straw man that we can use to start talking about that feature or that set of features. And really the key to this, as it mentioned, is the why. Why do we have this user story? What is the goal of the user? Why do we need to provide this feature? Because if we do that, now we're actually building out the high level design, we'll say, and the requirements in a way that is actually serving the problem and solving the problem, as opposed to us just building some stuff and then sort of trying to tack on solutions after that. Where do you want to go with this one? Big area, plenty to go with.
Yeah, so I'm going to start by picking the vague requirements, leads to rework, frustration, and features nobody asked for. So like you said, if we start out by actually understanding the why and really focusing on the user, the customer-centric approach to this, you hopefully won't run into this issue. But there are times, though, when your customer really doesn't understand their why. They may understand their business, but they don't know how their business works or how it's supposed to run. And that can run into a very huge problem when you start discussing requirements. You could easily get into a discussion where, we have this feature or product that we use, and we do X, Y, and Z with it. But in reality, they have 6 or 7 paper trails or other processes that they do that are not exposed within the application that they're using. So you could be running into situations where, because they don't understand their business, they have a vague understanding of the why, but they have all these compartmental pieces running their business that are not understood by the business. So when you get down to actually trying to figure out, okay, what are we building for you? You're going to run into a lot of rabbit holes and a lot of situations where you're going to have incomplete requirements, you're going to have disconnected requirements, or you could have requirements that make no sense at all. It's like, wait, why are you doing this when you have this application over here that's doing it for you? Oh, I didn't know it did that. So you could even have them, the customer could have tools at their disposal already that they're misusing or don't even know that they have, and they are using things incorrectly. So I kind of went down a different rabbit hole with this, but that leads to the vague requirements. Because if you ask them, how do you enter in, say, a customer's address? They say, oh, well, okay, I go over to this index card and I pull out the customer information. I go to the computer, I type it in. And okay, well, where did you type it in? Oh, I put it in Outlook. Well, wait, you have like maybe a CRM or something. Why didn't you enter in them? Oh, I didn't know I could do that. So sometimes figuring out the why or the customer requirements may be taking a step back. Have them walk through their business, like just walk through what they do in a day and figure out what they're doing, and then start to ask them, well, why do you do that? What is the purpose of this? And maybe you might have to reverse engineer the requirement or the why, because they just may not know, or it could be that they understand what they need to accomplish, but they don't know how to get there.
This actually brings up a conversation I was having with somebody the other day, that is just, it's a slight side note on this, is there is a level of trust that we have when we go in with a customer. And when you start talking to staff in particular about, like, what do you do? What is your user story? How do you solve this problem? What is the process? Sometimes you will get a different answer the first time than you get the second or the third time, because the first time you get the official answer of this is how we're supposed to do it. But then once people have that trust and they're more comfortable with you, you find out either by hook or crook. Sometimes it's like they'll say, oh, by the way, we don't really do it this way. That's what we say we do, but this is actually how we do it. Or you'll be sitting there talking with them about it or watching them do it, and you'll just suddenly be like, wait a minute, what is that index card that you just pulled out of your desk, and why are you looking at that and actually like entering data based on that? There's things like that are those insights that will help you with those user stories. That's just a little bonus stuff, is to just make sure you're asking the right question the right way. Moving on to part 2, according to Gemini. They're not a sponsor, by the way, but if they would love to, I would be more than happy for an Alphabet sponsor. That would be just great. Google, you guys can sponsor the heck out of them. Buy us for all we care. The how, the anatomy of a great user story, 8 to 10 minutes. Discussion item, the classic as a ... I want to ... so that ... format. Break down each component as a user role, why defining the user is critical. I want to goal, the desired functionality, so that reason, the business value or motivation. This is the most important part for a developer. Discussion item, the 3 C's of user stories: the card, physical or digital representation of story; conversation, the discussion that happens around the story; confirmation, the acceptance criteria that prove this story is complete. And then a final discussion item in this part is the invest model for good user stories. Independent, it's the I, can it be worked on alone? Negotiable, is there room for discussion? V is valuable, does it provide business value? Estimation is E. Estimable, I'm sorry, can we guess how long it'll take? S, small, is it a manageable size? And then T is testable, can we verify it works? Wow, there's like a couple of episodes just with that. I think I want to go with the breaking down the whole as a I want to so that, and it's at the core, a user story is as a blah, I want to blah so that I can blah. And so that is the structure of the story. So it'd be as a podcaster, I want to record my discussion so that I can share it with my audience. It allows us to, I think it's a great starting point. Let me start with that. It is, no pun intended, that it is a great starting point to say, let's put the user story down in very human terms. Now, I would recommend, and you can see this actually, I think the Developer book or out of the RB site, one of those books, we get deeper into user stories, and it's the other stuff. It really gets into the discussion items, because the user story itself is critical. It's like, let's start, that's our why, that's our focus, that's what we're trying to get done. But then you've got underneath it these details that are a little bit more about like, okay, so that's how we're going to do it, but let's make sure that we're phrasing it like the invest that they talk about. Let's phrase it in a way to make sure that it is right size, so that we're not stalling. Like, this is like one user story that has actually got a bunch of other mini or micro user stories within it. Is it something that makes sense? Is it something that we can do and validate and verify and estimate and things like that, or is it too pie in the sky? And if it's not those things, then that means that we probably aren't adding enough details. So it could be stuff like, I mean, I could start with, as a podcaster, I want to be able to record my conversations so that I can share them with my customers, but there's a lot around that. It's like, okay, well, this is how you have that discussion, to be like, well, how often do you want to record it? How do you want to record it? How do you want to deliver it? Who are your customers? Because you may want to deliver it in a way that they can't get it. There's things like that. Do you want to ask them for email at the end of at the end of every episode? There's a lot of details that come out of this. And it actually goes back a little bit to the prior part of vague or missing requirements. Is that this discussion, the whole point is to draw some of that out, is to try to find gaps and figure out where the story is not complete. Where did we miss something in this story that either needs to be its own story or needs to be specified within this one? So again, like I said, there's a lot of places you can go. So buckle up and like pick your spot, pick your race.
All right. So I'm going to kind of piggyback off that with some of the other discussion items down there, because one of the biggest things, especially if you are a test-driven developer, or you drive your applications or whatever you're building through testing, where it's user-centric, it's story-based. The as a or I want to really helps you depict what the story is. What is the requirement? Because number one question you have to have as you're going through those is, do your stories have multiple meanings? And by that, I mean, if you basically read, as a podcaster, I want to publish content. Okay, well, what kind of, if there are any questions about that, if there is an then you need to break that down into multiple stories. You need to do one story for like part one, and you need to do one story for part two. You need to kind of break those apart. Because if you keep them too vague, your requirements could go down the rabbit hole later, and you could end up with a solution that doesn't quite catch all the use cases that you need because you didn't define them clearly. And that gets into that invest model. So, independent, can it be worked on alone? Is this a small project? Do you need to break it out? Is it negotiable? Is there room for discussion? Is this, for instance, a healthcare application? So there are certain rules and regulations that you are going to be bound to with the way that you write this application. You can't get around that. You are legally binding to follow those rules. Now, does that mean that there's no wiggle room in other parts of the application? No, you can probably do other things that you want within the application. You just have to follow a certain set of guidelines for the government or state or country that you live in. Value, does it provide business value? This is a very interesting one, because just recently we worked on a project where we actually had a feature that the customer asked for that we built because it was supposed to provide them value. And then we come to find out later in the project that that value that was so important at the beginning of the project went away. They actually went a different course and had not communicated that. So we had built something of value that was no longer used. So that is time wasted on developing getting the product to the MVP sooner. And that also messes with the estimatables, because can we guess how long it takes? Sure, if the requirements don't change midstream. If you can clearly define those deliverables at the beginning, you get those requirements and user stories defined well, and everyone signs off on them, and you do regular checkpoints, you should be on track that, okay, yes, we are on track. If something changes, you should know early on how to pivot. Oh, if we change this or add this, this will change the estimates. You shouldn't get to the end and find out that you're a year, 2 years behind because, whoops, this core feature that absolutely had to be in the application took an additional year and a half to build. So these are why these requirements are so important. Small, is it a manageable size? Well, if you do your user stories correctly, like I said, if you break them down to where they have only one meaning, it should be small enough. Now, that doesn't mean that that particular story is more complex and could not be big. You could still pick at it and break it down into smaller pieces. Like Rob said, do we need to collect an email at the end of the podcast? Do we need to do certain things? So you can ask additional questions to whittle that down smaller. And last of all, I'll circle back around. Is it testable? Can we verify it works? Again, this goes with that test-driven development. So if you think about testing in mind as you're working and building out the requirements for this application, you're going to know that, okay, in order to ensure that this user story works, this is how I'm going to test it from the user's perspective. So when you eventually put it in front of the user, there should be no surprise.
I just want to follow up on that one. Is that a part of that? Is it testable? Is it verifiable? Is that it's basically, what does done mean? What does it mean for this to actually be achieved or completed? And that often can be a very big issue. So we're wrapping it up. I guess it's part 3, even though it's not, there is a conclusion, but part 3, practical tips for developers. Discussion item: what should developers do when they get a bad user story? Don't just code it, speak up and ask for clarification. Ask why. Challenge the I want to get to the so that. Write acceptance criteria. Collaborate with the product manager to find clear, testable criteria. Break it down. If a story is too big, propose a way to split it into smaller, more manageable pieces. Discussion item: pro tips and common pitfalls. Don't get lost in the technical weeds. The story is for the user. The technical details go into the subtasks. Example scenarios: talk through a couple of bad stories and show how to fix them. Bad: add a contact form. Good: as a potential customer, I want to fill out a contact form with my name, email, and message so that I can get in touch with the company about their services. Tooling: mention tools like Jira, Trello, or Asana and how they can support user stories. I want to keep this one brief because we could go very long again. I want to go with that last one, the good one. As a potential customer, I want to fill out a contact form with my name, email, and message so that I can get in touch with the company about their services. Now, I want to just break this down really quick for the anatomy of a good story, but then also where the discussion needs to go. You give the potential customer, which it can have its own little discussion, but then it actually says a contact form with name, email, and message. Well, that is maybe something that is up for debate. It's like, okay, well, why? Why do you want that information, and where's it going to go? How are we going to do that? And you have with that so that I can get in touch. Well, this would only say that you can get in touch by email. Do you want to actually ask for a phone number? Do you want to make email required? Do you want to make a phone number required? Do you want to use snail mail? I mean, do you want to use a WhatsApp, or do you want to do a LinkedIn app? Yeah, there's the contact stuff in particular can get very complicated very quickly. Can a person have multiple contacts? Do they need to have a preferred contact type? Do they need to have a contact that only occurs at 2 a.m. and a different one that occurs at 3 a.m.? Do they need to have a weekday versus a weekend? Yeah, there are a lot of things that can go into this. And when you get into the implementation of it, actually building it out, that's part of it. And it is part of it. If you do test driven, then you're going to say, well, okay, can we contact a customer? Can we pull back up their information? Can we see where we sent them a message? Can they reply to us? Things like that. Those questions are how we get to the finality of what it is that we're building, to say that, yes, now we've built something and it has provided that the needed functionality. But because we do the so that, it really should spark questions of do you really need that information? Or if you're saying that, don't you also need to do this to get a couple extra little pieces in? Closing thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I'm going to take the first part because we've talked about this a lot with our discussions of coder versus developer. The first tip that was talked about with this was, don't just code it, speak up and ask for clarification. Before you really work any ticket, you should always read through it and make sure that you understand what it is that's being asked. What is the why of the ticket, essentially? What is the acceptance criteria? What am I supposed to be doing with this ticket? Is it all clearly defined? And then finally, make sure that the task itself doesn't have one of those if-then stories where it's unclear what it is that you're supposed to do. Implied requirements are not good requirements. Defined requirements are good requirements.
I will just wrap that one up. Add to that is that the make an app that looks like this app is not a good requirement, or just make it look like this, make it work like that. is not going to be good enough. And so expect that you're going to get some questions. I expect that I'm going to get some emails because not because I incensed people, but because I'm asking for emails. Shoot us an email at info@developaneur.com. Let us know what you think. What do you like? What don't you like? Where would you like us to go next? We've been cruising along. We have another season coming up after, about another half dozen episodes, something like that. And we haven't even decided where we want to go next with that one. We are open to interviews. We've got some thoughts on that, and I know I've been teasing that for ever since we last did an interview, but it is real. It's not just like me just like riffing or anything like that. We may actually get to it. We just haven't followed through yet, so we'll see how that one goes. We'd love to hear if you want to be interviewed. If you'd like to talk to us, we would love to talk to you. Also, like I said, any suggestions, recommendations, anything like that, email. You can check us out on developaneur.com. We got a lot of stuff going on there. There's a contact us form. Any article, any of where you get our podcast, any podcast episode out on YouTube, any of the episodes there, you can leave comments there, and we will get back to you as soon as we can on those. And if you leave us something and you're like, hey, or you try to go somewhere, you're like, we don't find your podcast here, let us know and we'll make sure, because we want to be seen there, want to be there as well. But theoretically, we've been told that wherever you can get podcasts, we are there. We're already there. We're waiting for you to listen. So jump right on. If you're listening to this, then you can always check us out on the Developer channel on YouTube, and you actually see us as we go through it. And you get bonus information on basically every single episode, sometimes way more bonus and sometimes a little less, depends on how long we get on rabbit trails about this. All that being said, I do want to once again say how much we appreciate you and your time. That is so valuable, and yet you're sharing it with us. So we want to make sure we're giving back and helping to make the most of respecting that time. And I'm going to respect it by saying, go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time. Bonus material. So let's just go. I'll just like read the little conclusion here, the last little bit, and then see where you want to go. Summary, recap the key points. User stories are about conversation of value, not just tasks. Personal challenge, encourage listeners to actively improve the user stories on their projects this week. Call to action. What are your worst or best user stories? Share them with us on Twitter using @developing. Look, it even got that right. Mention where to find the podcast and how to subscribe. Find it with the subscribe button. I don't even know how to subscribe. I know you go there, you hit subscribe. Whatever your app is, it's got a subscribe button. I'm not going to walk through all of them. And then there's outro music with a little fade out, which we do have. Yes, we do have. I was like, we do still have the fade out. I've this tells you it's been a while since I've actually done that side of it. And I cheat. I have my podcast stuff all set up. So I skip stuff at the end and the beginning and the end so that I can move quickly into my next podcast and not listen to intros and outros 15 times in a row. So there you go. There's some bonus material right there. Great ways to cut out the stuff that you hear every single episode. Once you realize I don't really need to hear that anymore. But that's also bonuses. That's why sometimes I mix stuff up a little bit and throw odd things in, just to make sure that we give you a little bit of a reason to stick around for. It's like a bonus. It's like the bonus at the end of a Marvel movie or something like that. Is you never know when we'll have a post-credit scene. We haven't had one yet, but maybe we will now. All right, bonus information, bonus material from you.
Yeah, so I'm going to tack on the personal challenge a little bit here. So we've talked multiple times, many different conversations. We've got lots of material on the site to check out. But, if you are not writing user stories, if you really aren't sure what a user story is, I want you to go out, take a task that you're working on right now, and Google how to write a user story. If you don't know how to do this, just do a quick Google search. There's lots of examples out there. Jira, Asana, those tools have documentation on their wikis about user stories and how to incorporate them with their applications. But take the task that you're working on right now and take it clear. Start with what the problem is. Try to write a user story based on the problem that you would understand, and then pick at it. Make sure it gives you everything you need to actually write the feature. Make sure that you can test it, and make sure that you have what you need to sign off on it to say that it's done. Essentially, what is the definition of done? So I would start there, go out, pick something, work through it, and then when you're done, see what the difference is compared to what you started with, and see if your job is now easier or harder to get the task done, or better yet, did what you come up with actually match what you started with? Or is what you came up with actually what you need to do your work? Meaning that the initial task was going to send you down the wrong rabbit hole.
Yeah, I think this is one of those places that no matter how many times you've built user stories, you can get better every time. I think there's always something you can learn from them. Yeah, maybe it's like not every user story because you are going to get some that you will be able to just like you'll walk through and go like, this is a user story, this is a user story, this is what it is, this is what you have to do, this is what you have to ask about, this is what you need to answer. These are those things. So there's going to be things like we talk all the time about, like a login. If you have a user, do you have one user? Do you have multiple users? How do they log in? What is their username? Like, what's the unique value? What if they forget their name? What if they forget their password? How do you do that? Like, all of those stories are related to that. And we have them for other things, depending on your integrations and all this other stuff that you do. But there's always going to be new stories. There's always going to be new flavors of problems essentially you're going to be solving, and so that you're going to learn how to better ask those questions and flesh out the pieces that you missed last time around when you were building out the user story. That's why we ask for an email every single time, basically, because that helps us flesh out some of the pieces that we might be missing. But thank you for not missing this episode. Thank you for sticking around to the end and catching all of your bonus material as well. We will be back before you know it with the next episode, starting out with our general green room stuff and whatever topic we're going to cover next. And then we'll dive right into it because that's what we're here for. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you so much and have a great day.